0. Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog. Got a really great show for you today. My guest today is Eric Milch from Dealer Teamwork. Eric and I have been friends for about 50 years. No, maybe not quite that long. But anyway, we've been friends for quite a while. And matter of fact, Eric was a speaker at Battle Plan 6. To show you how long we've been together. This is Battle Plan 26 coming up. Before I get started here, I'm going to do a little housekeeping. I'm going to try to entertain you while that's going on. So hang on. I got to set the public, and I've got to share it with some other social sites. So be patient. I'll try to entertain you. Johnny Cash. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the ties that bind, because you're mine. I walk the line. I'm Johnny Cash. Okay, I believe I've got it. Yes, I do. I'm back. Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and this character here is my friend, scratching his nose, Eric Milch. Hello, Eric. How you doing?
I'm great, Jim. Any better, I'd be you. Good to see you today.
I'll tell you, if I died right now, I'd tell God, send me back as me again. It's a real thrill being me.
Well, it's a thrill seeing you again, buddy.
It's always good to see you. You got the new Corvette yet?
No, it's not supposed to land in the showrooms until March, is what I'm told.
Okay, so you are definitely going to get one, right?
I'm number 2 on CJ Romig's list right now.
I love it. Oh, CJ, he and I got a lot of history. The scoundrel. Anyway, listen, big guy. Let's talk about the used car empire. And where I want to start is let's talk about your and by the way, Eric is the co-founder of Dealer Teamwork. And if you don't know about Dealer Teamwork, we're going to talk a little bit about Dealer Teamwork before the broadcast is over. But right now, we want to talk about how to build a used car empire. And let's talk about Eric's credentials before we get into the specifics. What do you know about used cars, Eric? What have you done? What have you achieved? What have you participated in? I know the answers.
Well, I was fortunate enough to be involved with the co-founders of a little group at the time called Auction Direct USA. And we were very fortunate. We had a very interesting model, and this was back in like 06 or 06, 07. And the co-founders then had an amazing idea, and they wanted to do something obviously very unique, very disruptive. And they created a fantastic shopping experience with a one-price mentality, and just wanted to do things completely different. And that blew up pretty quickly. In a matter of a couple of years, we were the #1 used car independent store in the country. And we were doing a lot of great things. We did probably one of the most memorable things, Jim, that we did was, if you remember, we put a store together in the mall. Now, this is years and years prior to Musk doing it with Tesla. Mm-hmm. And we were actually doing about 30 to 40 units a month out of a mall store. And it wasn't easy, but it was definitely unique. It was a lot of fun, and we created a lot of great shopping experiences, to the point where we were literally getting impulse car purchases in the mall. And I'm not talking about lining the cars in the mall like people do, still to this day. I'm talking about an actual storefront where you take out the mannequins, literally put a car in the front window. And so people would walk by and they'd see that. They'd be like, why is there a car in the window? And they would just start, they'd come in and just browse around. And we just used that as a lead generator. We used it as a way to order cars. We used it as just a way to shake things up in the upstate New York market. And it worked really, really well. So that's a piece of it. And again,
Auction Direct.
Yep.
Upstate New York. And I knew all the players. As you know, I was working with a lot of the players at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And #1 independent used car dealer in the world at the time.
Yeah, so we were doing quite a few units. The thing is, and I would still say to this day, why that still worked, and obviously they're still going strong today. Part of the reason was, besides strong leadership and strong management, it was the dedication to the processes and being able to stick to that. When I'm not going to sit here and say it was 100%, but that was the mindset. But on top of that, everything was baked into the DNA, fortunately, from day one. Whereas a lot of stores these days, they might try to make the flip to a one price or just change their dynamic. And unfortunately, for a store that's been open for 20 years to try to do that, 10 years later or 5 years later, or however long later they want to try it, it's very, very difficult. So we were blessed with being able to create these things from the ground, like I said, bake it into the DNA, and that was part of the culture. And that's what helped drive that success. And ultimately, we wound up going into Atlanta and Jacksonville, Florida, Raleigh, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, Rochester. We had a mall store. So that's what helped fuel that growth, was just that uniqueness, how memorable the experience was. We only had one or two cars in the showroom. That's really all we could ever fit in these showrooms. That was it. It wasn't necessarily about just stacking them in and packing them into the showroom. It was about creating such a unique experience. And I've told this story so many times, Jim. We created the layout itself so that when a shopper came to the actual lot, they had nowhere to go but into the showroom. You couldn't get to the cars unless you came through the showroom, went through what we call the learning wall. You were set the expectation in about 5 to 7 minutes, and then there was a TO to the GM or the sales manager, and then out that back door. And by the time,
that's still the way that CarMax operates.
Absolutely, we studied that model very, very thoroughly to understand more of the psychological elements that made it successful. So by the time that customer left the showroom to that back door, they were honestly excited to go see the cars because they were being introduced to obviously a newer way and a newer approach of doing it. And it was all set in that first 5 to 7 minutes. And that's where a lot of the training was done, was just a new employee had to be able to walk somebody through and get them jazzed up to go shop for a car at what we called the learning wall. And I think every dealership can learn from that, instead of just coming in and saying, hey, here, meet Frank, your salesperson, and then say, what brought you in today, or what are you looking for? That's not unique. That's not memorable. So to have some type of experience where they come in, where the expectations are set and they understand what they're about to go through is a little bit different, than what they have ever experienced before. And it's funny, we used to, every store was set up a little differently, Jim, but every place had, like a landscaped berm. And we called people berm jumpers if they would park and then try to climb over those. and I can guarantee you 10 out of 10 times the same thing happened. If a berm jumper went out and came back in the back door and said, hey, I'd like to buy that Mustang out there I'll give you 16.2 for it.
They would jump over the shrubbery, but they would come back into the dealership and buy the car.
And this is a testament, though, to how that expectation had to be set properly in any environment, in any retail environment, in my opinion, because again, these people would come in, try to lowball us, and then we'd have to say, obviously, unfortunately, the first thing out of our mouths were either no, or that's not how it works, let us explain. And immediately they were like, oh, well, this is BS, I'm out of here. And unless we were able to truly get somebody to say, look, let's play the game here. We already marked the prices down to the point where we probably meet halfway on a negotiation basis. So we just cut out a half an hour of the back and forth. And again, our showrooms were set up, Jim. There were no offices. Everything was done at what we called the horseshoe. It was it looked like a bar without.
Hey, I was there. Remember, I visited.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. I have customers for 43 years. Customers say, look, I don't want any of that back and forth stuff between you and the manager.
Yeah,
How many times you heard that?
That's what Jim and Todd, the owners and the original co-founders, that's what they originally wanted to eliminate. They literally didn't want customers to sit there and say, well, how much for this, or what's the back and forth. Everything was done out in the open. Obviously, we had F&I offices for confidentiality and stuff like that, but it changed the way that people did it, and it left a big mark, obviously, in this market up here in upstate New York, and people remember that, and I'd like to think that we helped influence at least a small portion of the industry with regards to how we set the stage and how we set some of those expectations and experiences. So,
yeah, well, honest to goodness, I've had so many customers through the years that have said to me, I don't want that back and forth shit. Okay, well, sir, are you paying full sticker price for this car? No. Then you just created some back and forth shit. I was real happy with the first price I gave you.
Well, and I can tell you, from firsthand experience, the people that went through that learning experience and that expectation set, all of that was wiped out, and the buying process was very, very quick. The only thing that I'll say is, towards the end, when we started really doing a lot more customer feedback and customer surveys, it was still the delivery time. That was the biggest complaint that customers had, and I think that's still an opportunity, today, and that's still why we're seeing now, so many more newer disruptive technologies that are coming out to be able to solve that basic problem that is still inherent to the industry. There's a lot of other things that obviously that are in terms of usage behavior, buyer behavior, that are definitely impacting that. And those solutions, whether it's a traditional store or an independent, or obviously these newer ones like Fair, Turo, those are great examples. They eliminate that friction. I'll tell you this real quick.
How are the disruptors doing right now? I wrote a big article about how much money Carvana is losing. I mean, they're bleeding money out of every artery.
Here's my take on that, and that's a great topic as well. So one of the biggest constraints and pressures on our model at the used car superstore, Jim, was the physical buildings. And you look and see what Carvana's doing, obviously, with their gimmicky sales towers, the vending machine tower. Those things cost a ton of money. It's cool as hell, I'll admit it. Everybody likes it. It's part of their brand, but that expense, and especially if they continue to grow and expand and scale that business with more physical locations, that's just going to be a massive drain on their financials. And then you tie in the back end portion of that, and I've seen this for a couple of years now. One of their Achilles heels has always been their recon cost, and it's unless they can get both ends of the spectrum buttoned down, they're still going to drain a ton of cash. I know they're selling a lot of cars. People constantly say, I've seen it in our market as well. The flatbed trucks that are out there. That's big. The people are definitely seeing that. I think the ability for any solution to be able to eliminate that friction. What I was going to say before, though, like for instance, my oldest son is 24. Just bought his first used car. He just graduated from college, got his new job. Actually, he bought a new car, and still.
Wait a second. He's 24.
Yeah.
Is he living in your basement on a pull-out couch playing Xbox?
Not a chance.
And he's not a true millennial. I forgot to jerk.
I didn't raise him for that. So
he's not a millennial. We're gonna have to jerk his credential.
He definitely does not wear that badge. But the good thing is that he identified with that, and I let him do this all on his own. But he still said his main complaint was just, what is taking so long? And it was interesting. He told me, he still had to go through and sign the paperwork. It was all electronic. It was done on a smaller iPad type of unit, but still, it just took a while for it to happen. And as efficient as stores are trying to make this, there's still going to be those elements of friction within the process. But it was interesting feedback from him. He was expecting literally everything else. We figure from anybody that's in that age range, Jim, what are they used to when it comes to buying something? It's click here, have it delivered, show up in 48 hours. That's the expectation. And again, that's why all these other disruptors are starting to really make a dent on it.
Okay, now Auction Direct back in the day, 2006, 2007. How much technology was in your sales? How much of it was online at the time?
It was minimal. Honestly, it was a different time, and this is the biggest example I can say to the difference, Joe. I started noticing back in probably like 2009. I started seeing the trend where all of a sudden in my Google Analytics, I started seeing mobile traffic. And now think back to that time, Jim. I was seeing numbers of like 1.2, 1.5% of traffic coming from mobile phone. And I knew right there and then, I was like, holy crap, things are going to change quickly. You now look at it. It was just released the other day that more mobile traffic again is coming from, more traffic on the internet is coming from mobile phones.
From handhelds, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the change in that rapid of a time frame, is crazy. And But from a true technology standpoint, there wasn't much difference. I can tell you the only thing that we really tried to take account for was that shopping behavior that was still, that still runs true today and is still a major factor in philosophy as to what powers, Dealer Teamwork's technology, is the fact that people do what? They buy cars on payments. So at some point in time.
Whoa, wait, back up. That has been the premise of Zieglerism since day one.
That's my point.
Everybody's advertising price point. The principles at Auction Direct, I trained some of those boys. I didn't teach them everything they knew. They knew a lot more than I did in many areas. But as far as how to negotiate a deal, I taught them that.
Absolutely.
And payment is where it's at. Consumers don't care about the price. The majority of consumers don't care about the trade value.
Absolutely.
The reason they do all this manipulation is to get a lower payment. And I see people advertising price point. I just got a brand new Audi Q9.
Nice.
Or Q7. The first import I've ever owned in my life. And I did something else I've never done. I leased it.
Okay.
And I leased it just because I hadn't had any new credit for a long time, except my credit cards, and Debbie and I put $100,000 a month on American Express when we're doing the conferences. But other than that, I really don't. My credit score is like 832. I can buy stuff. I check, but still, I leased it, and it was all about the payment. It wasn't about the price. Okay, you're getting an $80,000 vehicle. Who cares? It's the payment. And when I got into, and one of the dealers treated me like old school. I don't know. It was because he realized I was Jim Ziegler and I was like a trophy buck. Wait till if I could lay away Ziegler, he put a payment grid in front of me. I said, I invented some of this stuff, pal.
Maybe you didn't actually know who you are. Maybe you really didn't know who you actually were.
Well, I think they were trying, and another dealer kept my driver's license.
Oh, jeez.
The equivalent of throw my keys on the roof.
Right, that's all I was thinking.
I ended up doing business with Jim Ellis, who is a very reputable, great dealer, by the way. But yeah, it's all about the payment. I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's your show, but I got to tell you, this show is about you and it's about what you know. But I had to interject that.
No, it's a great story. So the thing was, Jim, we've learned this early on, and again, it's something that I've still recommended used car dealers, especially today. When it comes to a used car, what are people looking for? They're looking for the payment, and they're really other than that, on the surface, they're really just looking to make sure that they got a good deal. So we did two things right out of the gate, and keep in mind this is purely desktop experience. There was 1% mobile traffic, and the mobile experiences were horrible back then, anyways. But we were showing those two key elements, Jim. We were just showing what your monthly price was, and we showed a discount to KBB. And again, the ability to aggregate data back then was a little bit harder. So, we duct taped together some APIs and pumped this stuff in. And here's the other interesting thing. We didn't use any of the vendors that were available. We made our website internally. We did everything in-house, saved on cost, made the processes faster, gave us more control. But again, the key thing was we made the experience simple for that desktop experience, and we gave the user exactly what they wanted.
The lead provider at that time was Auto by Tel.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was really Auto by Tel. It wasn't Auto by Internet. It was convert the consumer to a phone call, and websites weren't even involved in it. So amazingly enough, Auto by Tel was probably the first one to bring the lead provider into the equation. And you guys are selling $600-700 a month per location, 700 units a month per location. I'm watching this.
Yeah.
And it was all about, you were on the customer experience long before the industry was on the customer experience. That's what I admire about Eric Milch, because I know you and I know what happened there. And then payments. People still don't realize price point does not sell cars. Payments sells cars. Even me, I can write a check for 7 digits of cash, and I have an 832 credit score. But when I bought my car 2 weeks ago, it was about the payment.
And that's what it comes down to. So now with the advent of obviously mobile, much higher quality customer experience expectations, and obviously the ability to create what we call, in the marketing realm, much more of an omnichannel type of approach, and being able to send now, because again, this is back before Facebook even existed. Those types of solutions weren't there. Whereas nowadays you have the ability to combine that experience, combine that price shopping behavior expectation of payments, and then be able to distribute those that type of relevant content to any and all marketing channels where anybody's going to be, and most importantly, on any device. That's how this entire process has shifted and changed over the years, where before it was, okay, let's just put the payment on one page. Everybody's going to see it on their desktop. I mean, even laptop traffic was minimal. But now you look at how that's morphed and how that's changed to be able to take all that relevant info, put it in much more productive and helpful pages that actually convert, add a lot more tracking, and then back it up with the customer service and the experience with the standard, blocking and tackling of just, lead follow-up, track the leads, track the phone calls, track the appointment set, track the appointment showed, and obviously the closing rate from there. There's so many of the basics that are in there that are just now, it's like that old analogy. You get a jar with some rocks, and what do? Is you fill it up with smaller rocks and sand until you get the whole thing filled up. Back in the day, we were just dealing with a jar of rocks, basically. And now
listen, man, you're one of those guys that put the Green Sharpie company out of business.
Oh, we tried. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's actually impacting.
I'm getting to that. I want to talk about dealer teamwork first.
Sure, I'd love to.
You don't want to talk about dealer teamwork, do you?
I love talking about dealer teamwork. That's my baby.
Tell me about dealer teamwork. How did that evolve? How did it get born?
Well, our original two founders, were Dan Mondello and Pat Walker, and then they contacted me, and then we did what we could at the time, and I added a bunch of clients onto that. They came up with an idea for building specials for a dealer group, and then I brought my good friend Sean Stapleton in. We had been trying to reach an agreement to do something together over the years, and the timing was just perfect. And Sean's got the halo effect around him. Whatever he touches obviously turns to gold, and he's got the connections, and he's got great software experience as well. So we put our minds together, and we essentially expanded it from just that one simple concept, Jim, of just building specials for cars, to turning it into an omnichannel, holistic, integrated marketing approach where you can take this relevant content, as I said before, and then distribute it out in real time, or near real time at least, to the 4 primary marketing channels. And all we're doing is a very simple concept, Jim. We're making it very easy for search engines to find automotive vehicles and offers and service offers, so customers can find them faster. That's the simplest way I can possibly say it.
Well, I want to disclose out front, I am financially involved with you guys. You're sponsoring my events, and we're great friends. I don't want to sound like I'm doing an altruistic endorsement. I am involved with you guys. But I got to tell you,
the reason you're involved is why you've seen the results. That's the key point.
Well, yeah, exactly. I would never recommend a company, regardless of compensation, if I didn't see the results. So I always tell people, if I'm financially involved, you guys are sponsoring all my events, and we're great friends. But I got to tell you, dealer teamwork has produced some incredible results for my clients.
Absolutely.
And I speak to thousands of dealers, managers, and factory executives. I speak to probably more car people than anybody in the industry, because, people will take my phone call. If they find out Jim Ziegler's on the phone, even if they don't like me, what does that son of a bitch want? They'll take the call.
Isn't it safe to say that all those people that you talk to, there's some underlying themes that have been consistently present over the years that nobody has seriously addressed or solved, and that's in terms of control, the cost associated, the wasted spend that happens, the tracking and the accountability, and on top of that, the customer experience and just the support that you wind up getting from these vendors. So we took a look at all these overarching type of themes and storylines that that existed, and we wanted to fix them. Now we we do this because we love it. You know, we do this because we understand the problems. We've all had a hand in retail sales experience, so we know what the dealers are experiencing, and we have a solid understanding of how we know, how we can go ahead and fix these problems and bring them to light, because things are moving so much faster. And whether it's an individual problem like SEO, or just maybe a single channel like SEM, or it's a dealer that has all broken processes with regards to just the content creation, the content distribution, and
they got a wasteful spend.
Yeah, absolutely. So
they're spending money on things that are not working, or things that are working they're not spending enough on. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So by adopting these types of what we consider moving away from old school practices and going to new school marketing dynamics, leveraging individual all-in-one type of marketing automation platforms, that's essentially what it is. Let's call it what it is. But within the platform, those dealers that adopt all of the functions and features and capabilities of that, they're honestly seeing dealers are seeing a much higher rapid pace, selling used cars at about 30%, at least a 30% higher clip if they're merchandising them fully and then distributing them out, using things like our email tool, using things like our Facebook marketing solution as well, and combining those in to be able to reach more buyers at different stages of the marketing journey. Google says there's at least 150 plus touches that happen now between start and final purchase. So why not increase your odds and throwing the right bait out there? Whether it's on a social media campaign, a paid search, obviously mid-funnel organic.
In other words, now I've got a deal with you, and I want to put it out there. I put your email address up on the screen. I hope you don't mind.
Thank you.
If somebody contacts you and said they saw the broadcast and they know Jim Ziegler and that they're a Jim Ziegler referral, will you go to their dealership and do a complete audit of their marketing?
Absolutely, and we have done probably over 1,000 audits to this point, just in the last couple of years.
No obligation to buy anything.
No, absolutely not. And I still throw this out to this day. If I don't show you at least one thing that you weren't aware of that you can improve even on your own without purchasing anything from us, I will buy you the nicest steak dinner in your city. It's a simple proposition, Jim. And the fact is, we're going to find things like, again, how are we going to be able to identify missing waste, missing spend and opportunities and wasted spend, things like that. I know I can find that. Conversion rate optimization elements we'll be able to find. Just simple usability elements within the website. I find those every single time. Here's a simple takeaway you can, that everybody listening and watching right now can take away from that. Look at your navigation on the website. There should be anywhere between 5 and 7 primary things. Okay, new, used, certified if you got it for your brand, sell your car, schedule an appointment for service, and get financed. Okay, that's basically the key 7. You can strip away, go down to 5. That's even better. And then the last thing is, what does everybody have? They usually have a tab that says About Us. No, honestly, at the end of the day, nobody cares about you. What they care about, obviously, is either a way to contact you through a designated CTA, but over and above that, it could be something along the lines of your reviews. So again, bottom line, Jim, just take a look at that, and here's the simple way to do it. And I'll do it if you need me to, but it's so ridiculously simple, and nobody does it. Take a look at all the pages that you have in those drop downs. You've probably got duplicates. You've probably got multiple links with multiple titles on it. And then just combine that, reorganize it. And if it isn't a page that is at least getting a decent amount of traffic and obviously conversions, if it's just what we call on our end a dead end marketing channel, just get rid of it. Most of those things are just simply there because someone's excited. They finally were able to build a page and they popped it in and they want to show somebody the page they made. There's no CTA. It's just it's digital brochureware. But over and above that, what are these pages doing? And I've done this numerous times, Jim, and what happens is the organic strength of those pages starts to increase, and then we simply give users a better click path to be able to get to those pages, and suddenly what happens, miraculously, performance goes up, just because one reason, people find the most important content.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you manufacturer approved with any of the manufacturers?
Absolutely, great question. So we got BMW, we got Mini, we got BMW, Mini, FCA. That's all Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Alfa products. We got Kia, and we've got a couple new announcements that we're just on the brink of announcing as well. We got more.
Okay, you got all the Chrysler franchises.
Yep.
Mini, Kia, BMW.
Yep.
Who left out?
Those are the ones that we have currently. We've got a couple other major OEMs that are, like I said, we're just this close away from being able to announce things. So we got more great news coming.
Let's talk about the used car business. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. If you want a free, no obligation, no pressure audit, and you want to know exactly everything about your marketing scheme, your marketing program, you want to know whether it's working, what could be done better, you could do it yourself, Eric and his team will give you a complete audit of your marketing for your dealership. His email address is on the screen right now. Just tell me you want the Jim Ziegler free audit, and he'll do that. No obligation, no pressure.
Yeah, just hit me up. I'll be happy to do that for you guys. It does take a little bit of work, but we're happy to do it. And again, the information is so valuable. I mean, I guarantee you'll walk away with something that either we can help you with, or even easier. There's a bunch of things in there that we always find up finding that you can go back and handle yourself.
Okay, here's a Jason Rice. Do you know that man?
Absolutely, Jason's a great guy. He's a used car stud.
I actually asked him to speak at Battle Plan. He was tied up. Yeah, he had something. Hey, CJ Romig's on the sidebar here. You know him?
I think I've heard of that guy.
I've been training CJ Romig since he was a salesman.
Well,
I'm the reason he's in Chicago and Minnesota. Where's he at right now?
He's in Michigan.
Michigan. I knew it was one of those cold states.
Isn't he still a salesman?
He's there. I was consulting Motorworks in Barrington, Illinois, and we needed a general manager, and I recommended CJ because he's super qualified and Ziegler trained. I taught him everything he knows. I mean, he was challenged when I met him.
He's still a little challenged, but he's a solid leader, and he's got a great operation over at Cool Chevy.
His daughter is really talented.
She sure is. She's a future Broadway star, apparently.
They say genetics skips a generation,
or at least skip CJ in that one.
Absolutely. Randy Tucker's on the sidebar. Daniel Modelo, Jason Grace. I've been knowing Jason for a long time. Yeah, we got some pretty good people watching the broadcast here.
Dan's on. Dan Modelo. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, everybody. Hey, let me ask you, what is the state of the used car market right now? What's happening?
So let's take a walk back at least to what happened in the beginning of the year. We had the government shutdown that created a little bit more uncertainty. So we had strong uncertainty in the beginning. We had the threat of tariffs, obviously. We had the threat of rising interest rates. So again, that just created this atmosphere of fear, if you will. So what happens when dealers start to get a little bit more fearful? They avoid their accountability measures. They might avoid the processes just because they're frightened, essentially. They're frozen with fear. And again, that wasted spend just kept going on.
And the political season.
Yeah.
Every time there's a political season, it is the objective of both parties to scare the hell out of the public.
Absolutely. And that's what
I watched the debates 2 weeks ago, 20 candidates, all 20 of them said they're going to raise your taxes to 70%.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Oh my God, I'm going to become a Swiss citizen or something. I mean, they're going to raise our taxes to 70%. The public got jittery. The dealers get jittery. Not just the dealers. It's the public that gets jittery.
Absolutely. And we were fortunate enough, at least in the first quarter, I believe the first quarter sales were still up about 5% year over year. I think we did about $3.5 million in the first quarter. Last year we were at I think the numbers were 40 million, 40.4 million. And the jury's still out as to where we're going to end up this year. we've had 5 years, I believe, of used car increases year over year. But at least there's still a heavy demand, and the supply is still relatively strong, and obviously that's being fueled by lease returns. But at the same time, that demand is still healthy. But there is some reports out there that expect used car prices to drop by up to 2% for the rest of the year. Now, if that's the case, we should be okay. We should be a little bit healthy. But still, the dealers have several opportunities, Jim, in my opinion, to be able to ask themselves some serious questions. Again, I don't care about how great anybody's new technology is. What still comes back to those core basics that we talked about before. There's typical questions out there that in my opinion, dealers are not asking themselves. And I've had these types of conversations with countless dealers. And while we have the opportunity to work with a lot of solid operators, many of them might be aware of it. But I would still throw this out and challenge any dealer listening. Do you honestly know what the percentage of your vehicles age over 90 days is? That's a critical mark. And I know, even with the dealer group that I was involved with earlier this year, I'm not involved with them anymore, but still, Jim, the fact remains there were dangerously high levels of inventory that aged over 90 days. And
hey, Eric, through the years, I mean, this goes way back when you were in your Pampers. I mean, I'm talking about 43 years ago when I first got in the car business up until today. And I've consulted 1,000 car dealerships and some big players, and it never fails. When we see aged inventory over, and I'm digging in at 60, 90 is a stretch for me, but 60 days, I'm starting to look at distressed merchandise.
Right.
And I'm also looking at, did the service manager give that car a 2-week sun bath before it came forward?
Absolutely. And that's another major one right there, is how long did it take for that car to get frontline ready?
When I worked with Lynn Hickey Dodge in Oklahoma City, #1 dealer in the country, I wish I could take credit for their success. I did some training with them, but they were successful before they ever met me. We had a young wholesaler that come up to the dealership while we were doing all that, who didn't even own the franchise, and he was just learning to be in the car business. His name was Billy Facillo. I tell Billy taught him everything he knows. He's a great friend of mine. But I got to tell you, at Lynn Hickey Dodge, Lynn Hickey was a genius. He was a cowboy. He started out as a lot guy. They sold 2,817 cars in June of '94, the #1 record in Guinness Book of Records.
Right.
And I wish I could say I had something to do with all that. I had nothing to do with that. But it's still I was there and I got to see it and participate in a little bit of it. It was just those people were phenomenal. But Lynn Hickey would dictate that car had to come forward in 72 hours if it wasn't waiting for parts. And he would fine the service department for every day beyond 72 hours if it was not waiting for parts.
Yeah, that's a solid policy.
I mean, when you start hitting the used car manager's paycheck, $25 a unit over 72 hours,
They'll take action. They'll definitely take action then. I love that rule. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he enforced it, but he also rewarded them conversely for performance. They had performance bonuses, and he had a separate recon department with dedicated mechanics.
Right.
It wasn't like it was just coming through the retail service department. And that was a phenomenal dealership. They sold 2,817 units one time in history, June of '94, but they sold 2,000 units almost every month.
Wow.
New and used. And of course, AutoNation ended up buying them, never sold 100 units again and closed the point. But that's another story.
Well, there's a couple other key things too that dealers can take, to try to defend against this. And everybody talks about margin compression wherever, new, used, when it doesn't matter. Part of the reason why this still happens is they're still not taking a look at obviously what's being spent on these other third-party vendors or any additional vendor that just is doing that isn't doing the one key thing. It's not driving results. And again, that comes back to just proper setup.
Show me the money.
Yeah, how are you actually contributing to improving my sales and service growth? That's it. Are you driving new visitors, return visitors, phone calls, leads, walk-ins, whatever that metric may be? Those are missing, and I know we've said it ad nauseum, Jim, but still, it needs to be said over and over again. We got to get away from this mindset of just looking at these fluffy, feel-good vanity type metrics. That nobody wants a phone call anymore from a vendor just saying, "Hey, you know what, Jim? Your marketing is doing awesome. I'll talk to you next Tuesday." That's a BS phone call and should not happen.
Even worse than that, they got these bogus attribution surveys. Attribution is a real science, but the attribution you're being shown by some of these vendors is bogus, manufactured by bogus third-party, bogus fake research companies.
Absolutely. So you take a good hard look at what you're buying these days and where that money is going. And for some reason, in my opinion, Jim, the industry right now is literally being crippled by being like awestruck, if you will, by anybody that approaches them with something along the lines of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or anything, any of those types of buzzwords. And unfortunately, the average person doesn't necessarily understand the true meaning of what machine learning is, and basically it comes down to obviously the tool being able to learn better data. But you have to take into consideration the data that's being pumped in, and it's only going to learn if it has good data to begin with. So if you have a machine that's being pumped in crappy data, it's going to spit out crappy data back to you. So and a lot of these things that they claim are being powered by AI, it more than likely it's probably just a simple if-then programming statement, and then it's really just pumping in some mediocre data at best. But realistically, and I'll tell you this, I'm a staunch defender. Obviously, I manage the marketing for Dealer Teamwork, and I'm one of the first people to stand up and say I do not want to go down that route by claiming that we have some type of artificial intelligence or machine learning at this time. Not to say that we're not exploring it, but I'm not going to make that claim that that's how we provide our results. A lot of the machine learning that we rely on is inherently baked into a Google Ads platform. They have the machine learning. We're just putting better data into it so it can spit out better data so customers can shop easier and find the offers. That's it. So we're not going to make the claim that that's our technology. We'll claim our technology and what we built, and that's obviously the marketing automation platform, but we're not going to stick a label on it just simply because that's the latest trend, with every other trend that you've seen over the years. So
the other thing people aren't taking into consideration is saturation of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I only had one conversation with Dale Pollock in my life, and I really like Dale Pollock. I love vAuto. I hate vAuto. It's a little angel sitting on both shoulders. Love vAuto, hate vAuto. I would never use it the way they teach you to use it. And I predicted, and this has been 7 years ago when I met Dale Pollock, and it was at NADA, and we had this conversation. I said, you're not going to go in the men's room and crap up some additional customers. There's only so many people in the market at any given time.
Right.
vAuto, when it was new and you were the only dealer in the market that had it, you were killing it. But now that everybody's got it, it's just another drain because of the way they're teaching you to use it. I want to use vAuto or something like vAuto to show me what there's a saturation of cars in the market. There's too many of those cars in the market. Don't buy that car. Don't stock that car. And then I want to use it for a barometer on how to get out of a unit when it's time to get out of the unit. But as far as pricing it, I want to give a used car a chance to make a profit.
All right.
I don't want to cheap price it before it ever has a chance, because I know for a fact that the majority of customers, and now most people pull statistics out of their anatomy. I'm not going to reach back and 58.7%. No, people pull these statistics out of their anatomy. I don't. But let's just say a whole shitload of people don't get the car they thought they were going to buy when they left the house.
Right.
They switch. So why do I want to have my cars cheap priced, so cheap, thinking I'm getting velocity, when I'm not really getting velocity because everybody else is getting velocity. Make sense?
Absolutely. And I will say this, that was one of the unfortunate fallout effects of Auction Direct when we were in the heyday, is that unfortunately we left a lot of money on the table. We priced the cars so low, and it was awesome. They were lead magnets, and they drove a ton of traffic, obviously. But once we went back in and looked at the numbers on it, it was revealed obviously that we were leaving money on the table. And then when we truly started looking at the data in vAuto, there was no reason for us to have to go, say, let's just say, for example, say $950 lower than the next dealer in the market.
That's the thing I like about vAuto. That's, like I say, there's things I like and hate about vAuto, or something like vAuto. And the other thing, Eric, is market saturation. You pointed out we've sold 40 million used cars. 43, I think, was the top. And we sold 17 million or thereabouts new cars. So let's put those two numbers together. For 5 years, we sold roughly 43 million used, 17 million new. What does that come out to? 60?
Yeah.
60 million cars. There's only 200 million licensed drivers in the United States. We have crammed a new or newer car up their throat every 3 years.
Yeah, and contributing to that, I think they say the number is about 5.75 years is the turnover right now. I believe that's something either 5.7 or 6.7. I believe it's 5.7. But still, the only other item that I can possibly think of, unless I'm missing something, somebody raise their hand and tell me I'm wrong. But there's so many newer vehicles, obviously, that have hit the market. Like I said, on the used side, with regards to lease returns, whether it's backup cameras, technology improvements. And why do people like to buy used cars? It's a better value, and they can also upgrade their current ride. Whether it's just leather, tech packages, all these newer things as well. Whether it's blind spot, the blind spot enhancement, additional video capabilities, anything like that. Even you can buy a used Corvette on the market now. I mean, I think CJ's got a used Z06 with 4,500 miles in stock, and he's only selling it for 67.5. And you got a PDR that's attached to that car. I mean, oh my God, that's one of the most insane values out there. So the point is, being able to buy a used car like that versus something $30,000 more or new. Again, it's just, you have to look at that. But let me share this with you too. Here's something else that, in my opinion, the dealers can go out and take a look at. Ask yourselves, what percentage of your trade-ins are being done via curb sales, just regular customer trade-ins, versus and compare that against your percentage of cars that you're acquiring at the auction, and then compare side by side your acquisition cost of the two buckets. Obviously your trade-ins are always going to be the best ones to get, but here's the thing: we can't just rely on typical online process. We tried something at our store, and we, at our new store that we did a couple years ago with Auto Outlets, Jim, and we were crowdsourcing our leads for that. I mean, what a creative way if a dealer was able to create a campaign around that and be able to get people just to send them cars for sale that are sitting on the side of the road in front of somebody's house. There's always cars for sale at a gas station. There's plenty of cars out there. Just put a campaign together and have 50 people out there in any market at any given time. Just snap a photo. Everybody's got their phone with them. Take a photo of it, text you the car, and boom, there you go. Now there's your used car lead.
One of my better friends is a car salesman named Harry Umflett, and Harry's in the Carolinas. Harry called me a while back, it's been about 3 years ago. He said, "Jim, I'm in the worst sales slump I've been in my life." He said, I just can't close a deal right now for some reason, and I'm a 20-car guy. I said, "Harry, I want you to go on Craigslist, Auto Trader, everybody that's selling a car, a direct consumer selling a car, and I want you to call them and offer to buy their trucks. Just concentrate on trucks." And this was one of my prospecting things when I was a salesperson back in the dark ages. Sir, I see you've got that new Conestoga wagon for sale. I would call people out of the classifieds, and I would sell 2 or 3 cars a week, calling people that were selling their used cars in classifieds. And I would do that today on steroids with all the technology we have. We'll buy a car for cash.
Yep.
And even if we don't buy it, you got to remember, most people advertising a car on Craigslist or in the classifieds never sell that car. They usually end up doing business with the dealer. And who's the dealer they know? The one that's been calling them.
Yeah. Well, here's two other simple things that we did back in the day. One of them, the idea actually probably came from you back in when you were buying Conestoga wagons. So I love, oh, by the way, I love how they had phones with covered wagons at the same time. I love that. But here's the thing. We had in each market, Jim, we had a PT Cruiser that was wrapped. It was so gaudy and tacky. It stood out. You could see it anywhere you were in the city. And this guy's job was very simple. He literally lived out of this car, and he just had to drive around and basically basically curate retail sales or curb sales like that. And the rule was we were not supposed to see him at the store. We were just simply, he was supposed to be out and about. And this guy would just rack up leads nonstop, and there were times where he would just buy the car on the spot as well. He'd radio it back and call it in, and just, someone would go out and pick up the car. That's an easy way to do it, super easy way. The other one is radio spots. As much as we don't like, as much as many people rather don't care for traditional marketing, there are a ton of ways to cheaply and cost efficiently, basically a way to go out and get cheap airtime. One of the easiest things that we did, actually, we bought massive inventory of 10-second radio spots. And all they did was they just simply said our phone number, our website, the tagline of "We buy your car regardless," and our brand name. That was it, all in 10 seconds. And they flooded the market. But now look at those opportunities today. Obviously you have the opportunity for different sponsored online type of campaigns like that. But what about things like Waze? You got the ability to have your name elsewhere, for very, very cheap. And I'm not even expecting a click from that. I'm just simply expecting to be able to brand the used car differences and competitive differences, rather, to be able to make a point for the brand. And not enough dealers, in my opinion, know how to do that, at a rapid pace and at scale to be able to get that name out. Everybody's too worried about getting their face on the front cover or getting the name out. That's not what the customer obviously is looking for. The customer wants obviously a better experience, and they want things to be easy. They want to go online. They want to be able to find what they're looking for, know what the payment is, get a good deal, know that they're getting a good deal, and then have that purchase wrapped up in less than an hour if possible. This is not, this shouldn't take 4 hours to deliver a car.
No. That is the sales process's fault. And F&I gets blamed on so many bad things that the sales department does.
Right.
Because I was in F&I. All the records I set were in F&I. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was only a sales manager for a year. I was an F&I manager for 5, so. And one thing, once that car is sold, salespeople go into what I call slow motion stupid mode. I mean, they've got the write-up. I've got to get some numbers off the car. I need to know, get some insurance. I mean, they go into the slow. I was desking a deal with Tammy LeBlue. Do you remember Tammy?
Absolutely.
When Tammy was my protege, I was in Shreveport, Louisiana, or Bossier City, I guess, and I was desking a deal, and I had done a big gross on a Nissan Altima, a program car. I mean, I had knocked it out of the ballpark. It was like $7,000 or $8,000 deal. And here we go. I walk by the salesperson's office like 20 minutes later, and the customers are still sitting in there.
Right.
And they're not sitting and I heard the father say, "We need to think about this. Perhaps we're moving too fast here. We need to talk about it. This is the first place we shopped." And I'm hearing all this conversation. And where's my salesman? Slow motion, stupid mode. Got to get some numbers together. I tell people when that deal is written up, I want that deal in F&I within 15 minutes. The the shot clock is running. The F&I office is the basket.
What a dealership needs, honestly, the timers that they have in fast food stores. That's exactly what they need.
They do, and it's crazy because salespeople do that. I mean, and it's almost every dealership I go to, the managers aren't managing after the write-up. We should have that information in the CRM. And I understand you got a lot to say about CRM. CJ on the sideline said, "Get him to talk about CRMs." Is there an inside joke there I'm missing somewhere?
Yeah, a little bit. CJ knows my love for CRMs, but tell CJ I'll give him a separate private audit next month in Chicago.
I tell you what, you can't help but love CJ Romick. He's just a one of a kind.
He's all class.
I knew him when he was a salesman. It's just funny because he's been to all my training through the years, and then when Motorworks needed a general sales manager, I brought him from Denver to Chicago. Changed his life.
I'm sure he changed his life more than one way.
It's amazing. The stock market has tanked 600-700 points today already. The Dow's fallen, and I'm amazed it took this long with the political season. Everybody talking gloom and doom, and both parties seem to be sabotaging the economy. That we've had a record economy, and it's almost like they're bent and determined to do that. Now the public's all spooked, so I'm seeing car sales slow down. And to do business today, you got to take that business away from a competitor. And I think that's where dealer teamwork comes in. There's going to be winners and losers, and the internet did not create the sale of one additional car. It only redistributes who gets the sale.
And speeds it up, obviously. People buy what they search for today, and they speed, it's helping. It's a major catalyst for being able to drive that sales process along a little bit more seamlessly, and also obviously speeds it up. And I'll say this, I believe it in my mind and heart, Jim. I've always believed that our ability to be able to provide higher quality results when somebody actually does search online, if somebody does search for Corvette, sale price or Corvette incentive, whatever vehicle, make, model. If the dealer that is the one dealer that is able to provide the specific answer that applies to the context of the search query and matches the intent, that's the dealer that's going to win the click. And so many other people don't realize, in my opinion, how that works. In my opinion, again, we're car guys and girls. We all realize that that people shop for cars, but I don't think we truly understand it because we don't have to buy cars the same way. We don't shop for cars the same way. But the thing is, think of any other search outside of automotive. When you go to your search engine on your phone, laptop, tablet, I don't care what device, what do? You type in a question or some type of statement that is trying to solve a specific problem. And it's a dealer's job, very, very simply, to be able to solve that. So if somebody is reaching, if they've already gone from consideration, awareness, and they're down to awareness, consideration, and then purchase, we're not trying to grab those shoppers that are at consideration and awareness. We're trying to grab those people that have gone down that funnel. Or at least, Jim, at the very least, we want to be that catalyst for conversion into that next phase of the shopping journey. And I'll tell you what, I've seen it, and you've seen it. It works. The dealers that are using this, when they search something and the answer comes up with make, model, and now, I don't know if you saw it, Jim, but we just released it this morning. Now we have make, model, and trim level type of relevant content to be able to answer that even more specifically. And those specific answers, again, down to make, model, trim level, with a payment, a lease price, a zero down, a sign and drive, a finance. It could be what if you searched for, what if your main pain point was just the interest rate you were paying? We can show that for a dealer. What if they were interested in the savings? We can show that. And again, this comes back to what I said, Jim. We create around about 185 or just a little bit over that now with the new ads we're creating. we're actually able to build so many ads that allow Google's machine learning technology to be able to match the relevant content of that ad to the search query. All we did was we helped you, the dealer, create a larger inventory of relevant, specific content that answers a question. That's all it is. And to be able to do that at scale by hand, over and over again manually is literally impossible. And I would challenge anybody to try to prove me wrong on the ability to scale that number of ads with that type of relevance, to be able to distribute them in real time, and on top of that, to be able to manage it in real time like that.
I challenge any dealer to go to Google right now. Google is the weapon, folks. Bing, quit it. Bing, okay, no, Google. Bing, no, Google. Okay, go to Google, and I want you to put in 3 things. I want you to put in the make of a car, a model of a car, and your city. Nothing else. Because no matter what the consumer searches for, those things are going to be the most prevalent things they put in. The make, the model, and the city. I mean, there might be other factors they're searching for, but generally they want to know make, model, city. And I want you to see who's going to pop up first. Car Gurus, and then you're going to see Auto Trader, and then you're going to see, well, Cars.com might sneak in there. You're going to see all the lead providers that have taken your customers and rented them back to you and charge you to do that.
And here's the other part of it too, Jim. And again, keep in mind, what everybody searches differently. That's our philosophy. So we want to be able to match some type of content and intent to be able to match, obviously what the person is searching for. So again, let's say you were like, yeah, you know what? I've done my research. I've gone to all the other third-party sites, from a research standpoint. Like a great one would be going to Edmunds and doing your research and comparison there. A great logical progression where someone goes to a site like Edmunds, and then after that, you might do a search. Again, Toyota Camry lease deal, Toyota Camry lease special, Toyota Camry finance, any type of price. We call those more highly intent transactional-based type of searches. Look and see what the actual results are in your local market. And if your store doesn't come up with your current offer, again, the current offer, and then take it back. And I'm not talking about just starting at, because that's a standard type of ad. I'm talking about a VIN specific type of ad on a specific car. It will take you back to that specific offer on a landing page, not a VDP, a landing page. And then from there, take a look at, if you don't have that, how do you expect as a dealer to be able to compete against that type of marketing automation and marketing technology? Because that's where the dealers should be at in today's dynamic, in today's environment. It needs to be able to provide that dynamic level content. And again, being able to do what I just described on a single manual standalone basis is literally impossible. And again,
so you're giving them the same automated technology edge, not the same technology, but the same edge that a lot of the lead providers have in placement.
Yeah, and so you remember the old days, Jim, when you put an offer out on the website, and let's say if you wanted to change that lease offer from $299, let's say that the traffic is getting pick up going into the weekend. Let's say that your competitors now have a price that's maybe $10 cheaper. Let's say you wanted to even just go $5 below. To change that manually on your website, between calling an extra outside vendor, having somebody inside make an image, put it onto a page, still you're talking about time to dark, the dark to market type of time, and it takes time and it takes extra resources, and unfortunately it could result in the worst, and that's missing sales opportunities. We kind of flip that script essentially, have you give that control back to the dealer and say, yeah, you know what? This morning I'm going to raise my price. Then this afternoon I'm going to lower it, and then I might go back to a price that's in between. And again, I've literally seen dealers do that where they make changes, concurrently like that throughout the day, and they can plan these out. So now they have a true real-time type of market strategy, and then even better, the technology allows that to be updated in near real time for their AdWords as well. And so to be able
dealer teamwork, you and your team We'll give the dealers a complete audit of their marketing with no obligation, no pressure to buy. You'll give them things they could fix themselves, whether they hired you or not.
Absolutely.
And I'm putting your email address back up on the screen right now. There it is, Eric@dealerteamwork.com. And let's see if we can get that done. I just had a thought. You're talking about inventory turnover, inventory control. How many times if I had a used car manager and get in my face and me get in their face and I said, look, we need to wholesale that unit. I want that unit out of here. It's going on 70 days. It's going on 80 days. It's going on 90 days. It's over 60. It's over 90. And the used car manager looks me in the face and says, Jim, I can't replace that car for what I have in it. We can sell our way out of it. How many times we can sell our way out of it? Yeah. If you could have sold your way out of it, you would have. There's a reason the customer didn't buy that car.
Right.
Even if you can't replace it for what you have in it, get one that's similar to it that you paid more for that people will buy.
So here's a real life example I can share with you. Okay, we had a new dealer.
Wait a minute, a real life example? You mean I'm lying?
No, another real life customer example.
Another real life example.
There's a traditional store. Okay, as a Mercedes dealer, had a massive inventory of aged units. The projected loss on the certain block of cars that I'm talking about, the estimated wholesale loss was about $10,000. It was just a few vehicles, but still, they wound up lumping in some additional age units that were about to hit that age range, and they used our platform to be able to create a specific campaign to drive those units out for an email. It was just simply one element of it, and it was just using the email component of it to be able to bring return visitors back to the website on it. Instead of going down that route of loss, Jim, they were able to avoid wholesale losses altogether, didn't take them to the auction. They wound up selling everything, and over that weekend, just on those few units, you're talking about a $70,000 gross increase versus a proposed $10,000 estimate on loss. And that's.
Now, do you know what day of the month a lender is most likely to buy a deal?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What day of the month is a lender most likely to buy a deal?
I'm not sure of that. That's a great question.
It is a great question. And being an F&I and being an F&I trainer as I am, I've done great research. I had a substantial contract with Ford for 10 years. And I got to look at Ford credit from the inside, and I still see the way it runs. The best day to get a car bought through any lender.
Is it a Monday?
Is like the 26th.
Oh, I thought you meant what day of the week. Okay.
The 26th, because they have to get that deal booked and in their portfolio to meet their portfolio commitment to the manufacturer.
Gotcha.
I tell dealers continually, if you got a deal turned down at the beginning of the month, repackage and resubmit on the 26th.
Very smart.
Same customer, different unit, different amount of money. Same deal, different package, different unit, and that's one of the old Ziegler tricks.
That's very smart.
You have a deal that almost got bought. One you felt really close on. Repackage, resubmit on the 26th. Eric, I could talk to you forever, old buddy. We got a lot of history, you and I.
Absolutely. Always awesome to catch up with you. And you never cease to amaze me as well with your extensive knowledge and experience. You've always got something great to share. Everybody always walks away with great stuff from you. So everybody appreciates everything you do for the industry.
And what are you going to be talking about at Battle Plan? I forgot to tell people you are a featured speaker at Internet Battle Plan. Eric is one of the guys that I requested to speak on building a used car empire. I mean, I requested him. I mean, he didn't volunteer. Hey, I want to speak on used cars. No, Eric, I want you to speak on used cars. Please speak at my event. Okay, now tell me, just give us a little preview. What are you going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about we're going to get much deeper into the weeds with some of the stuff we talked about today with regards to process. I am going to talk very heavily about the change in the marketing element of it, and not specifically with regards to the MPOP and with dealer teamwork, but just how that dynamic has changed and how a lot of it, while it's the tools, it's not necessarily the strategies that have changed. It's just the individual tactics. So I want to create a nice comparison to, old school versus new school, and just talk about, much more of the specifics. I want to give examples too about a little bit deeper about what we talked about today in terms of, how dealers can defend. I want dealers to be able to walk away with a better understanding of obviously today's current market, and be able to understand how they can go back and put some strategies in place, or even better, some newer tactics that they never even thought of. And
this marketing survey that you're going to do, this audit that you will give a dealer for free, does it also identify what competitors are taking market share away from them and how they're doing it?
Yes, we have a ton of information that I always include in there in terms of market competitiveness and just market comparisons. And then from there, it opens up a discussion, just, really how deep we need to get. If it's a larger market, we're going to have a lot more data. But again, I got some great tools at my disposal to be able to pull out some information that I can, again, guarantee that they've never seen before, that really, will really pinpoint it. And it's funny. It's always funny. I ask a dealer this, Jim, what are your top competitors? They'll often tell me who they think their top 1 or 2 competitors are. And then I look at some of the data, within some of the tools that I use, and they're completely different. And you know why that is? Because the dealers make the same mistake over and over again. They always go to their computer at their desk and they type in on Google, and they're typically logged in as well into their Google account. And what do? They search the same thing over and over again. And then what do? They click their competitor. And then what happens is Google's giving them personalized results. And so the next time you do that search, Google thinks that that's what they're looking for. So of course it's going to put their competitor above them. So they don't see the real results in there. So I always find that surprising. So it's just little things.
I have often very similar. I've told dealers, your number one dealer taking units away from you is dealer X. And they'll say, no, Jim, that's a little podunk dealer. They're only selling 60 units a month. I say, yeah, but 30 of them were yours.
Yeah.
They might be a smaller dealership. They might not be performing as well as some of the big players, but as far as taking units away from you, they are the superstar in taking your business.
Right. And
people don't realize that. That's just a little dealer. Ignore them. That little dealer, even though they're little, they'd be a lot littler if they weren't taking your shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a ton of info we can share with that. And then on top of that, the plan is for now, and I'll need a little bit more help from you on this. I would love to be able to do a live audit with a dealer that's coming to Battle Plan in Atlanta, and I want to be able to do what I do in real time. It'll be a little bit quicker, but I want to point out at least 5 of the key elements that I'm always looking for in these audits, and I want to be able to raise this.
You don't have time to do that in 45 minutes?
I can whip through it in about 5 to 7 minutes, but here's the thing: I'll stay real high level. But we got to get a dealer that's willing to be able to get.
Well, I've got some dealers in the audience who wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah, we'll poke a little fun with it, but nothing too harsh. But again, the point is, I want to be able to help. I want to be able to help as many people in the audience improve, and by doing an actual example of these 5 to at least 5 key elements, Jim, people in the audience are going to walk away and say, "Oh wow, I never even looked at those those type of things. I never."
Battle Plan. I've strong armed some of you guys into buying some tickets, and yep. I think you guys have 10 tickets that you have purchased, and you're going to give them away to a dealer that will actually come.
Yes, we've got a couple people already that have said that they are absolutely interested. So anybody else, please reach out. You can find me online anywhere. Shoot me an email. It's on the screen, but just reach out. We'd be happy to set you up with that. Of course, everybody knows about this event. There's always great speakers. This lineup is no exception to that. But we've got some newer things that we're trying to point out, given the state of the current market. And we want to really be able to just help everybody out there. And again, I guarantee you, whether you do business with us or not, you will walk away with something that you'll be able to identify.
Incredible. I'm writing some stuff on the sidebar right now. Hang on 1 second, Eric.com. Okay, yeah. Well, Eric, we've had one heck of a broadcast. We ran 15 minutes over. I mean, and it seemed like the time just went on us.
It's always great to catch up with you, buddy.
Well, listen, you and Stapleton are both speaking from Dealer Teamwork. I'm glad to be your friends, and I'll see you at the broadcast. I'll see you at the event.
I appreciate it. Great to see you. Thanks everybody else for watching too. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you in Atlanta, buddy. Okay.
See you in Atlanta.